Welcome back. I hope you've been keeping well. The timestamps are in the description box. I have 4 stories for you today. All are mother-in-law related. Let's get started. Story number 1. Opie writes, My 32 female mother-in-law, Pam, 57 female, found out she had breast cancer ±2 years ago. As my city has a reference hospital for cancer treatment across the country, my husband and I agreed to let her live with us. Pam is a difficult person to deal with, very critical and stubborn, but my husband controlled the situation. It was okay for 6 months, but after that period, my husband was sent to work in another state for 2 years. It's 4 hours of flight and no direct flight. He stays in the city for 2 months, 2 weeks here, and comes back. After that, it was the worst part of Pam's treatment, and I felt overwhelmed because she had surgery. She was in very bad health, and everything was on my back, in addition to being treated bad and being a maid for Pam. Also, as my husband had to rent a house there and pay bills, I was 100% responsible for our house financially. Pam never contributed. Every time I complained that my mother-in-law didn't pay anything, she has a fat pension, and mistreated me, he took her side and said that I should be patient with her, because she is in a bad mood because of the treatment. But even garbage was better treated than me. I don't know how I held on, but a part of me didn't give up because she didn't have anyone else to take care of her. But it really wore me down emotionally and physically, having to tolerate and care for someone who is ungrateful and disrespectful. 1 week ago, we got the news that she is completely cancer-free, and that was a great relief. But I had my limit when she said she was thinking about putting her house in another city for rent, since she was around here. I burst out crying, saying I couldn't take it anymore and she had to move out of my house as soon as possible. My husband found out and yelled at me that I couldn't make this decision on my own about our house, and that I made it very clear that Pam was being a burden, making her uncomfortable. I replied with, quote, I pay all the house bills myself. I took care of her without saying anything, and I don't want that anymore. So yes, it's my decision in the house that I pay, and I don't want to have such an exhausting presence anymore, unquote. Pam is at the hotel right now, and all the relatives are calling me a monster for doing this to someone who has recently been cured of cancer. It's okay, my husband might become an ex, but at this stage, I'm just relieved. My heart says I'm right, but I wish I had an outside perspective. Am I the a-hole? Opie, I don't think you're the a-hole. You've been taking care of your mother-in-law for a long time for the sake of your husband. He doesn't sound very grateful or aware of what you've been through. She's got her health back now. It really is time for her to move on and to let you get back to your life. But the thing that bothers me the most about this, Opie, is that you sound like you've been a doormat, not only for your mother-in-law, but for your husband. And I'm wondering about these family members that you say are calling you a monster. How did they treat you during all this time when you did take care of Pam? Did they praise you? Did they thank you? Okay, let's get to comments and then we go to OP's update. It's very effing convenient that he scooted right off at the peak of her worst spirits and health, so you could be both physically and financially responsible for his ailing mother. Every last one of his people and him are a-holes. You are not the a-hole. You are worth more than this. You shouldn't spend a second more wasting energy on these people. They all know who she is and what she's like. That is why no family member, including her son, wanted to care for her. Run like your tampon string is on fire. These people are hideous. And someone else says, not the a-hole. It's easy for your husband to be so judgy when he's not dealing with it firsthand. Also, where were all these relatives that are calling you a monster when she was receiving treatment? Why can't she go live with them? You do not deserve to be treated that way, and it's okay for you to stand up for yourself and not tolerate it anymore. And here's Opie's update. A few hours after posting, but that's it. I barely woke up. My officially future ex-husband called and said that after what I did to Mom and disrespecting his opinion on an important decision, he said he can't trust me anymore and will return to town on Monday to sort things out, but not to fix our relationship, but to determine how we will go our ways. Don't worry, the house is entirely mine before I married him. Although now it's a memory of bad things. It's a house and who knows in the future, maybe I'll sell the house, but right now I'll stay in it. I even considered trying couples therapy, but when he brought up the possibility of divorce, my heart was flooded with relief. And honestly, I love him. But as many of you have said, someone who loves you stands by his wife when she is mistreated. So I think we'll really walk separately. Going to the market right now for snacks and good alcohol to spend the day. Any Netflix recommendations? Thank you for all the messages of love and support. Many may think it was an obvious and not the a-hole situation. But when everyone around you is telling you that you are a monster, you doubt your own judgment and heart. Wow, OP, the whole time I was reading your story, I just kept feeling you are being used. You have been used. And now that you have stood up for yourself finally, now your husband is just ready to toss you aside. You said that you feel relieved that you're going to get divorced. You know, that is it. That is a sign that it's the right thing to do to go your separate ways. And I really have to wonder why your husband immediately jumped to that decision. I kind of wonder what's going on in this place where he's working. Maybe there's more to the story that you don't know about yet. But OP, I'm really sorry that you spent this time, 2 years of your life, taking care of somebody that was ungrateful and mistreated you. And then your husband and his family come and they insult you and call you a monster instead of being grateful for everything you did. So I'm going to say, once the divorce is settled, go no contact, just move on. Get these people out of your life. It really sounds to me that you were just a convenience to your husband and his mother. I really wish you the best, OP, as you move on with your life. Story number 2. OP writes, my fiance's mom hates me. She has been nothing short of the mother-in-law from hell, and she has his ex on a pedestal. My fiancé and I have the same wedding date as his ex, which is kind of crazy. But anyone planning a wedding right now knows how hectic everything is due to so many weddings being postponed during COVID. And getting any date, let alone a perfect date, is hard. I've always known that she preferred the ex and wanted him to marry her. This used to really bother me, and we even tried to get her to cut contact, but that blew up spectacularly and there was a huge fight. His ex works for mother-in-law as a hair and makeup artist / somewhat of an assistant, and they are still very close. Mother-in-law recently sat us down and said she could only come to our ceremony and then would be leaving to make it to his ex's ceremony. She said she didn't want to fight about it as she had thought long and hard, and it felt right to her as his ex has no family. We were both furious, and the more I stewed on it, the more angry I was for my fiancé. I let mother-in-law know that we would not try and change her mind, but something needs to be super clear. We will never do a thing for her. She is losing her right to be considered immediate family, and she needs to plan accordingly. There will be no care when she is elderly, no financial help. She will never ever live with us. Mother-in-law became furious. She said I was manipulative, and that was so insulting as she has never asked anyone for money. She has thrived career-wise, and she said I'm insulting her career. I said I know she has done very well, but really anything can happen. Mother-in-law said it was, quote, unforgivably insulting, unquote, as she has been financially independent since she was a teen, and now she isn't talking to us. The whole family is taking her side and saying it was a weird threat. To be honest, I don't think she is going to need our money, but I just wanted my point to be clear, that there will be no help whatsoever when she is old. Okay, and OP says that the reason she might be the a-hole is the following. She feels that I insulted her career by implying she would even need money. I made a major decision and didn't really talk it through with my fiancé. If she actually does need care in the future, I know this will be hard on him. I am punishing her for wanting to go to a wedding of someone she is very close to. Okay, OP, there seems to be a lot to unpack here, and I feel you didn't tell us everything. There needs to be more information. I was going through OP's replies to comments, and I still couldn't find the information that I was looking for. Who set their wedding date first, OP? Was it you or was it the ex? What exactly is your mother-in-law's intention? Is she going to go to the other ceremony and then immediately return to your reception? We don't know. You don't give us that information. But I do think it's a very odd threat to make. So there's more going on here, OP. I know you said she's the mother-in-law from hell, etc. Something isn't adding up for me, so I can't really make a judgment and say you are or you aren't the a-hole. I think to an extent you definitely are, but I need more information. Okay, let's get some comments with replies from OP. Info. What has she actually done besides remain close to her son's ex who works for her? OP replies, bring the ex around us when it makes us uncomfortable, make fun of me, tell my fiancé I'm not good enough, cry to people that she can't see her son without seeing me, so she now dreads seeing her own child. And to this somebody else replies, why can't she see her son without seeing you? My wife sees her parents without me all the time. And OP replies, because he set boundaries, so she knows we are a package, and she can't get away with disrespecting me, and then still get visits with him. And a final comment, this doesn't sound healthy. I have an independent relationship with my mother. My husband has one with his. I don't think expecting her to cut off his ex is a fair demand either. I'm starting to sense why she might be critical of you. Well, I'll keep my eyes open for updates in the future and I'll pin them in the comments. But I kind of think that your mother-in-law is going to go to the ex's ceremony and that's just going to be that, OP. So let's go on to story number 3. OP writes, my wife and I currently live with my mom. It is super embarrassing and believe me, we are trying to get out, but we had no option for the moment. My mom and my wife have never gotten along, and my mom is a pretty crappy mother-in-law. I am on my wife's side 100% and shut it down when my mom starts. Sunday was my wife's birthday, and my wife is huge on birthdays. We had a whole day planned, and I had some extra surprises. I know from previous years that she has sky-high expectations for birthdays and gets disappointed if there is any setback. We were getting ready to go out and my mom fell down the stairs. It was totally her fault. She was running in heels. Obviously, we both went to her, but she was adamant that she didn't need help. I told her she needed to go to the emergency room as she couldn't move her wrist and was quite literally withering in pain. I felt I had to offer to drive her as she can't drive with one arm. And I've heard you can't Uber if you are clearly injured for liability reasons. I saw my wife's face fall, but I just felt like what was I supposed to do? My mom declined and I asked her how she was going to get there. She said she didn't know, but she didn't want a ride from me. So we went out for the day. But my wife told me I was insensitive for asking. When we returned home to change for our big evening out, my mom was back from the hospital. She was looking for something to eat, but hadn't done the week's shopping and was struggling to find something she could get on her own. I offered to make her something. At first she declined, but then gave in. When my wife came down, I said I'd be ready in a few minutes, and she looked incredibly hurt. It was just grilled cheese, and it didn't take that long. Also, my mom had been at the ER for hours and hadn't eaten. Before we left, I asked if she needed anything, and she said no. The moment we got to the car, my wife accused me of catering to my awful mother on her birthday. I pointed out it was an unforeseen emergency, and she told me my mother being stupid and running downstairs shouldn't be my priority. She said my mom has her own partner. He was out of state and did offer to fly home, but wouldn't have made it until early the next morning anyway, so still couldn't have given her a ride or made her dinner. And she can't forgive me for making her second fiddle to my mom on her birthday. OP, I'll give it to you straight. Your wife sounds very immature. And you say that your mother is an awful mother-in-law. Perhaps she is. I don't know. You didn't give us the detail. The facts are you are living in her home currently. She took you in. She's helping you out now that you need it. So I kind of feel that whatever tension there has been between your mother and your wife, it's gotten worse, obviously, since you're under the same roof. I don't know what's been going on between the two of them, but OP, I will say that you are not the a-hole. Let's get a comment with a reply from OP. Not the a-hole, but I don't agree with the comments saying your wife is to blame. If you know your mother-in-law is typically awful, it isn't a stretch to think she might have hurt herself on purpose, maybe hurt herself more than she thought she would, to steal some attention from your wife. Think about it. Why on her birthday of all days? OP replies, then why decline the ride to the hospital? Because she had a really easy way to ruin her birthday right there. My mom, whose idea of hell is sitting still and relaxing, now has a cast on her arm. But sure, she probably did it to take 10 minutes away from my wife. Someone else comments, I would just like to add how your wife wants a grand birthday when you cannot even afford to live by yourselves. Not the a-hole. And a final comment. OP, are you certain the problem is your mom? In this post, it seems like your mom, 1. knows she isn't a priority to you or your wife. 2. probably doesn't want you in her home, but has allowed it because you have nowhere else to go. 3. is reluctant to ask you for anything, which is sad. She doesn't seem like the issue, but your wife seems completely unreasonable. OP, I agree with that last comment because it really didn't take a lot of time out of the day for you to make a sandwich for your mother. Your wife really does seem to me like she overreacted, but like I said, there's a lot of tension. You're under the same roof and the two of them don't like each other. Story number 4. OP writes, about 1.5 years ago, I made the decision to limit my sugar intake, mainly because I wanted to lose weight. I'm obese, and I have 2 family members with type 2 diabetes. So I don't eat any sweets, cookies, sweet pastries, cakes, etc. In the 1.5 years I've been doing this, I have not lost any weight. Last weekend, my mother-in-law baked me a cake for my birthday. She knew that I don't eat things like this prior to baking the cake. I have consistently refused all sweets from her for the past 1.5 years. I thanked her but told her I don't eat cakes. She said she knows, but it's my birthday and I can make an exception on my birthday. 1 slice of cake won't make any difference. It won't break my diet. Then my sister-in-law and father-in-law started pressuring me into eating cake too. They cut a slice for me and put it in front of me. Meanwhile, I kept saying no thank you. When they finally stopped, my mother-in-law looked very hurt. She spent hours making that cake, remembering what I used to like in the past and making my favorite flavor. Now I'm here wondering whether I'm an a-hole. They are right, 1 slice of cake won't make any difference, especially since I haven't lost any weight since limiting my sugar intake. Mother-in-law made that cake for me, and I refused to even taste it. Am I the a-hole? OP, my first thoughts were, if you've been doing this for 1.5 years and you haven't lost any weight, then there might be some medical thing going on here and it's worth it to check it out. But back to your question, are you the a-hole? I don't think you're the a-hole, and I don't think your mother-in-law is either. You didn't say anything negative about her, about having a difficult relationship. It sounds like she honestly wanted to do something nice for you on your birthday. And I also think the reason your sister-in-law and your father-in-law kept insisting that you eat a slice was probably because they saw how hard she worked to bake this cake for you and they didn't want her feelings to be hurt. So I see a lot of misunderstandings here rather than anything malicious on anyone's side. Sit down and have a discussion with your mother-in-law. Don't let this damage your relationship with her. Maybe give her some recipes of things that you can eat. Well, that's it for now. Thank you for spending this time with me, and if you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Leave a comment if you have some opinions on this. It's a bit grey areas with some of these, so let me know what you think. Until next time, take very good care of yourself, and I'll see you again soon.